Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another AFL Fantasy Fanatics round review. We are recording live on Sunday, the 6th of July, after the completion of round 17, the first of the post-bye weeks. So hopefully we had a good week, but obviously a big spanner in the works. Massive shocker, Geelong at the centre of it with Bailey Smith late out on the Saturday afternoon. But I'm your host, Bales, and you can find me at BAILSDT across the socials. And joining me, as always, is one of my co-hosts and fellow AFL Fantasy Fanatics, is Tim Guest. Guesty, mate, how are you? How was your weekend?
Mate, I had a pretty good weekend. Pretty busy. Got to watch a little bit of footy, and had a relatively solid round first week out of the buys. So it could have been a disaster, but it wasn't for me. So
Beautiful, mate. Looking forward to seeing what you scored and jumping on. He's a regular one of our guests. So we have a couple of regular guests on. We got another one jumping on very shortly, but we do have 2024 runner-up coach Palm United, Tom Hales. Tom, mate, how are you? How was your weekend?
Hi, Bills. Hi, Guesty. Yeah, no, weekend was good. Good to go and see some footy on Friday night with Taser. Go and watch that masterclass for one quarter by Tom Green. But apart from that, we'll get into how I did. It was a bit of a mare week for me, but good to watch some footy and have a relaxing one.
Yeah, no, good to hear, mate. But we will get stuck straight into our weekend recap. So, Tom, what did you end up scoring? What was your round rank and what's your overall rank looking like now?
Oh, so I scored a 22-30, which moves. I dropped back about 100 spots. What was my round rank? Sorry, I'm on a different setup today. I don't know where anything is. My round rank could have been about 10k, I reckon, something like that. It was an okay week. 22-30 and out to 23-87, which it's fine. It's not great. There, good to bring in Zach Merritt this week for his massive score. So that was good at least.
Yeah, no, beautiful, mate. No, Merritt was very, very good. Guesty, mate, how was your weekend? What did you end up scoring? Your rank and your your round rank and then your overall rank.
Yeah, look, I'm not sure. Like as a round rank, probably wasn't too great. Had a 22-16 round ranking of 10,666, and that brought me in a few spots to 5,442. So. I kind of really, I know that last week was the end of the buys, but I kind of really wait until the week after the buys to see how everyone kind of has gone. So, I mean, I basically went from the beginning of the buys to the end of the buys from 10,000 something to, or 11,000 to 5. So I'm pretty happy with that, halving my rank during the so-called buy rounds. But what I was pretty happy about was, and we'll talk about the Content Creators Cup soon, but yeah, I had a win over a pretty big coach out there, so I'm just pretty happy with my week and the way my team performed this week.
Yeah, no, beautiful, mate. We will get into that very, very shortly. I ended up having another good week, so back-to-back solid weeks, my best 2 weeks of the year. So backed up with another 2306. That was a round rank of 2,806, and my overall rank is up 989 spots again, up to 4,352. So making a late season charge, which is nice. Would have been good to have done it earlier, so I might have had a maybe potential hat to play for. But hey, I'll take the ranks rising up last couple of weeks, which is good. So hopefully we can finish off strong, and top 1,000 is certainly something I'm aiming to see if I can achieve that this season. We'll go to plus and minus threes, and Tom, we'll start with you. Who gets your plus and minus 3 for round 17? On mute, Tom.
Sorry, guys. As I previously mentioned, I brought in Zach Merritt this week. I just thought he was an absolute steal, priced at about 94, and to go 145 on debut with Richmond this week. I think that it could have been a good trade-in, and hopefully the buy was a nice reset for him to have a good run to the end of the year. A -3, I'm going to give it to Miles Bergman, and I know it's not his fault. There was injuries in the game. He had to move back into defence, and that really hurt his scoring after a decent first quarter. But 64 after the buys in the team is just kills any chance of a green arrow, to be honest. Just a really poor score, and unfortunately that he gets my -3.
Yeah, a few injuries there, which we'll chat about when we get to that game. But yeah, very frustrating and could be on the chopping block for some coaches because we don't want players that can have their roles change. The drop of a hat, a little bit like Miles Bergman. Guesty, your plus and minus 3?
Look, a pretty popular player. I'm going to skip. Look, I will give a shout out to good old Colby McKercher with his 124, but I'm going to give it to Max Holmes with his 122. And that was primarily just because I was able to pivot. And remembering how he went last time Bailey Smith was out of the side, I decided to put the C on him as well. So I was pretty happy with that as a captain for the round. I don't know how everyone else's captains kind of would have wound up, but I guess some might have had the Wang, which would have been pretty happy with that. But yeah, I think he fared pretty well in terms of captains this week, so I'm happy with that. My negative 3, I'll give it to Jai Caldwell. Actually, 79, injured at the end there. Don't know how that's going to pan out, obviously this week. But he was my trade-in for Doherty. I think Doherty's probably scored a few points more, 5 points more. And then what was worse is that Merritt being moved into the midfield really kind of hurt his role as well. So he certainly wasn't cruising along as well as he would normally be doing that. So, yeah, and then Merritt into that midfield role is obviously concerning me for Caldwell as a long-term trade-in. So, yeah, I'll give my negative 3 to Caldwell.
Yeah. My plus and minus 3. It's so hard to split these two. Nasai Wangani Miller and Ryan Marshall are probably there. I'll go Marshall because he's a little bit more unique. 96 point second half for Romar and was doing Romar things. And the fact that he lost the hit-out battles by a fair chunk to score a 140 is just, I think he's a very good option. He's near 1.1 million now, but if you're looking at any ruck changes, I think Marshall, someone that should be high up on your list. And my negative 3, who am I going to give that to? Probably got to go to Nick Martin in a good matchup, just the 74 points. I didn't get to watch a heap of that game, but yeah, 74 points in a good matchup. I would have probably expected a little bit more from him and didn't have too many poor scores. So yeah, unfortunately, he's got to be the one that gets me because I would have given it to Bergman, but yeah, obviously Tom gave it to him. But our second special guest has jumped on today, one of the members of Free Kick, the official AFLW Fantasy Podcast, a good friend, Liam. Liam, mate, how are you? How was your weekend?
Yeah, thanks, Bales. I'm not too bad. I actually had a pretty solid weekend. Scored at 2,369. Which pushed me up about 500 spots. So I'm up at rank 662.
Beautiful.
I think that was a round rank of 682 in the end. So yeah, very happy with how things went. Things were looking dicey early when I'd had, Kennedy really underwhelmed. Sheasel go sub 100, and I thought I might have been in a bit of strife. But yeah, happy with how things turned out.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. Who gets your plus and minus 3 for the weekend?
Oh, yeah, that's a tough one. Look, I've already heard that Caldwell's got it once, so I think he would have been well within the firing line. Nick Martin, another player that could have easily got it for me. You know what? I'm going to give it to Sam Darcy's first 3 quarters because that genuinely aged me years. Like I was just absolutely miserable the entire time. And then he suddenly decided, oh, yeah, I'm actually a freak. And I'll score whatever it was, 64, 65 points in that last quarter. So it's not the full Sam Darcy experience because as it turns out, unless you owned McRae or the other Martin, you didn't score 100 as a forward. Sam Darcy's fine. It's just those first 3 quarters of crap.
Yeah. Him and
Excuse
Tom Green
me,
probably
there was another 100 from a forward. Mr. Rankin, what a guy.
Oh, yeah, but look, I've got Mr. Rankin as well. It's the same exactly doesn't feel right.
But no, Darcy and Tom Green both with two of the players of note that had some very big saves this weekend. But we'll go over to Guesty now for a little bit of a Content Creators Cup update. So, Guesty, how are we looking in round 17?
Mate, I am absolutely never prepared, and we don't have a run sheet, so you always throw to me, and I'm never, ever ready. So let's just have a quick look. All right, Jaiden. Jaiden had a win over MJ, okay, so that's good for Jaiden. Jordox had a win over DC, so good for Jordox. Like I said, I had a win over Louis, so pretty happy to have a win over Louis. Lou Dog's having a really good year this year. But
the point is, how much did you win it by? That's the question.
It was 3 points. It was a measly kick in from Callum Mills, which I was hoping to, you don't want a bit of an after the siren adjustment there. So I was a bit worried about that. And then you had a win as well. So it was a pretty good week for the
first time this season, back-to-back wins. It's
back-to-back wins. All right.
And I'm still on the bottom. I'm still at the bottom by half a game. So that's annoying. But the overall ranking at least is looking a bit better.
All right. Well, Louis still on top. Kyle Holmes' second, MJ's third, DC's fourth. Jaiden out of the Fanatics is sitting 6 on the ladder at the moment. I'm actually having a pretty good year. I'm in 9th at the moment. And then what do we got? We got, I'm having to scroll a fair way down the bottom. 17th is Jordox. And then 20th is Bales. But yeah, overall, shout out to Kyle Holmesy, mate. He had a stonking week this week. Actually, I'll jump back. Can you just quickly have a look at what he scored? But I guess the most 2-4-8-2.
Yeah, and that was eighth for the week. Eighth for
the week. Moved into overall rank 30. I think he was just outside the top 100 or something like that last week. Yes. So Holmesy is well and truly in hat territory. He might even be sizing up his garage for a Hilux at the moment. But DT Lemons 142. A big shout out to Nath from Hat Chat at 305, and then Louis at 712. DC at 768. So yeah, 5 coaches inside the top 1,000.
Yeah, no, beautiful, mate. I'm literally we're leaning on what you and Jaiden at the moment, because obviously myself and Jordox down the bottom. Obviously, Jordy isn't in it. Obviously, we grabbed him on part of the Fanatics a little bit later, and both Mitch and Luke are outside top 8. So it could be a year where two different podcasts are up in the grand final, because it's been Fanatics and Ball Boys. So Guesty, you and Jaiden have got to hold the fort and keep us going, keep us up there.
I'm going to go from here.
Exactly right.
Bales, is the Content Creators Cup like Shiva or the Hat Chat seeded leagues, where if you finish inside like the bottom 1 or 2, you're demoted?
No, it's not that. No, it's not that.
I think that sounds about fair, right? Doesn't it, Guesty? That sounds good.
Nah.
Sounds like a plan. Spice it up a little bit.
I reserve the right to have creative license every year, depending on how I want to do it. You want to keep it changing. You want to keep it fresh. We had the 20th coach this year. I thought that was a brilliant idea. So I'm literally Sydney.
Like I'm having some form late at the moment, getting some wins at the back part of the year, but that real tough grand final loss is really sort of biting me at the moment. But we will. Let's go through the games from round 17 and see. Talk about a couple of relevant players here. So we'll start off on Thursday night. We did chat about this a bit on Friday, but North Melbourne and the Dogs. Dogs getting the job done by 49 points. And I think the big one there, Liam, was that Marcus Bontempelli bounced back with another big score, 133 points. He's obviously at a bit of a cheaper price. Still, I think he's below 950K. What do you make of his game, and is he an option coaches can consider? It's a little bit cheaper.
Yeah, he's 100% up there. I think it's him and Zach Butters in that 900 to 950K range from last week that proved themselves to be back at premium level. There's a certain Essendon captain that I don't really want to talk about right now, also who was in that price range. But yeah, I think he's well and truly shown himself capable of, again, hitting those 130s that we saw at a stage when no one had him coming off his injury.
Yeah, 944K with an 85 break even. He might start making that a little bit of cash up, and he's obviously cheap for what we know he can do. Colby McKercher was obviously very good as well with 124, 32 touches with 9 tackles. And I guess you slightly mentioned him there, but is it too late? He's 833K now. His break even is still 41. Is it too late for people to jump on? Or if you don't have him, can you still look in that direction because he's still at a decent enough price?
You asking me, Bales?
Yes, yep.
Sorry, yeah, I just wasn't 100% sure. Yeah, that's a tough one. I think there's still a little bit of value there. Like I probably saw him as more around about that low 90s kind of guy. Obviously a nice 124 pop score. He's got the role though, so Look, I'm just not sure if these are the kind of players. Like we've got our Callum Millses, our Colby McKirches, our Tom McCarthy's that we might be cycling through those kind of that D6, maybe even looping or something along those lines. Yeah, I think we want to be going higher up than that at the moment. But look, I mean, there's an argument for it because there's probably a little bit of maybe 10 points undervalued or something along those lines. Not sure what the dogs, sorry, not the dogs, the Roos run is like, but yeah, worth looking at.
Yeah, they got Melbourne this week, so not too bad. Into then Sydney, Geelong, St Kilda, so a little bit up and down there, but could be someone that you do look to with the lower break even. Tim English as well, 116, very good score for those coaches that own him in a tough matchup. Tristan Cherry, 96. It was just obviously very unfortunate for everyone that owns him. That was a 110, 115 plus score. Just unfortunately had that HIA assessment late in the game and didn't come back on, obviously, with the 15 minutes. So apparently passed his concussion test, but obviously we know players can have delayed concussion and everything like that. So just keep an eye on the news for that one. But at the moment, he is okay, and hopefully he is okay. Sheasel, 93 as well. A little bit better, but had a lot of midfield time after LDU went off concussed in the first quarter. Didn't quite get the score there. A little bit unlucky with a few missed tackles and some teammates burning him, but a little bit of a better score there. Caleb Daniel with a 90, and obviously Liam mentioned as well, Sam Darcy saved it with a massive 65-point last quarter to score 88. So that just says how bad his first 3 quarters were. Matt Kenny, a little bit unders there with an 85. Non-owners probably looking at him dropping a little bit in salary there as well. And unfortunately, I know that, Tom, you're an owner of him, but people are frustrated. Bailey Dale, another 59, just not getting it done. And he had Constanti sort of sitting on him for a lot of the night and went forward, kicked a couple of goals in that. Is he someone that you're looking at potentially moving off of this week now that we're in luxury season, or do you still think he's a guy that can turn it around?
My side, I've got way bigger issues than Bailey Dale. Unless I'm going to use him for a cash grab. He's down to, what is he now? Bailey Dale's at 961. So I'm not looking at jumping off purely because he has the ceiling. He has okay run to end the year. Couple of tough ones in the next 2 though. But he does play Essendon and West Coast and Melbourne in the last to the end of the year, which is pretty decent. You can definitely jump off. If you've got a good side, you can definitely jump off and get the guy you don't have. But I think that tag was as hard a tag as I've seen on a halfback this year. So is that going to be a blueprint, or is that just going to be a game-to-game thing? I don't really know. He does have Adelaide this week. Does he get like a Neil Bullen or a Keys? Maybe. I just don't think so. I think he'll be okay this week.
Yeah,
I think that they will run a tag because it was so effective. Like the worst quarter for Western Bulldogs in that game was that first half. And that's when Bailey Dale, who, he lines up on the wing to start, but then drifts behind the ball, loses his man. He is their main setter up of play in transition, and they are one of the best sides from going D50 into their own forward 50 and generating scores. They looked tough, and there was one play where Constanti put pressure on that I haven't seen many people try and put on Dale, and it forced a turnover in the middle of the ground that led straight to a North goal. I'm not suggesting I guarantee that we'll see it from Adelaide this week, but I think it's a model that we will see more often in these final few games of the year because of how effective it was.
Yeah, the first one that came to my mind was a Ben Keys potentially could line up on him at a half forward, or as you said, Tom and Neil Bullen. So something to note that you can trade if you're in a luxury spot. But yeah, he's got the ceiling, so maybe you hold for a week or two and get some of these other players out of your side. Let's move to the Carlton and Collingwood game on Friday night, with Collingwood getting the job done by 56 points and Nick Dacos, 132 points. If you did go the VC on there, which I know a few people did after Chincotta wasn't in the team, he'd be very happy with the 132. Darcy Cameron continues to put up good scores, another 115 from him. Adam Chera, obviously talk about the halfback. Robert played mostly midfield from what I saw, scored the 93. for coach that held, which isn't too bad. Josh Dacos, 84, a little bit unders, obviously what we want, and he'd be someone I think few people are looking at trading, but his next 3 matchups, Gold Coast, Freo, Richmond, I don't think you can afford to trade him out. So I think he's a hold for 3 more weeks. But Sam Doherty, Liam, 84, played from what, speaking to Tom pre-recording, was saying a lot of sort of that back pocket and took a couple of kick-ins. He's obviously got defender status now. He's one of, I think, 8 people that got DPP this week. Not really anyone relevant besides a Doherty. What did you make of his game? Is he a trade and just get ahead of maybe if they can't look to maybe get some other younger guys in? Is he a hold? Where do you sit with Doherty at the moment? Because he was on 40 points a quarter time and didn't do much else after that.
I would be sitting there going, yep, great. We've gotten what we wanted from him. He's now up above 900k at 918. You are within even a crap rookie down to a looper, able to get Bont, Butters, Merritt, or if you've got some more cash, if you want to go unique and have a look at Errol Goulden. I think it's now's the time to go. They have Brisbane coming up this week, and then 3 of the next 5 matchups after that are also not easy for halfbacks. I just think now's the time to jump off. And if anything, I think the defender that actually looked best for Carlton was Lockie Cowan.
Yep. Yeah, no, it is very interesting there. I'm interested what people do between, if you've got Doherty and Bergman, that'll be an interesting one, which we'll obviously discuss when we get to a little bit to Bergman there as well. Ned Long, 78. I thought he was on for a big score. I think he was on like about 12 points in the first minute. But yeah, 78. If you traded out, you'd be fairly happy. If you kept him, you'd sort of be a bit disappointed, but he can go if you've still got him. Rowan Steele, 69 points on debut. Could be a downgrade option if you're looking for a cheap rookie that is playing and if he holds his spot. And then just a heap of other poor scores. And Tom de Koning, probably one of them there with just the 48 points. That was a really disappointing score for him. So if anyone still has got him in their side, you'd be very, very disappointed with that, considering that what I think did Pitney obviously back in the team, and it was obviously affecting TDK's role. Not much else to talk about, so we'll move to the next Friday night game, which I guess he was in attendance for a little bit of this one. Was West Coast and Giants. Giants by 59 points here, and Finn Callaghan looked fantastic, 120 points, but he was that good that I just think he's going to get some tags on the way home. So a few people asking about him, but I do think he's probably someone that if you got him, great, good score. Just don't know if he's going to be consistent enough with these tags, potentially coming in the back part of the year. Liam Duggan's getting it done, 116, another solid score from him, but don't think we're looking at him in Classic. Tom Green, though, Tim, I know you, as you said, watched a little bit of the game there and scored 104 with a 53-point last quarter. I don't know if have you got Tom Green in your team? And what did you make of his game, obviously being there for a bit of it?
Yeah, look, I was only there for half the game just because I took my 4-year-old son, so he didn't last the whole thing. But yeah, look, he's been a little bit of a, what's the term we're using this year? Right? Yeah. So, look, I mean, he's averaging in line with that kind of. Well, I haven't updated it for this week, but he was kind of averaging in line with that kind of top 8 or the bottom end of that top 8 mid. So he's kind of probably not someone you're moving on. I mean, once again, he got there on the weekend, but he's just frustrating because you just feel like there's another 5 or 10 points in him. So, look, I know a lot of coaches jumped on him. I think he's got a better run coming up over the next part of the season. Let's have a look at GWS. What do we got? GWS, we got, Geelong's a bit tough at the moment. Essendon, they haven't got a great run. So, yeah, look, I don't know. Those midfielders, they're a bit tough to pick at the moment. So, yeah.
Yeah, I don't like you saying that because I just brought him in last week. So he goes, well, he did that without any tackles, which is the first game this year that he actually failed to lay a tackle. But 7 marks was at least a positive. So hopefully he can put up some good scores to finish the year. Lockie Ash with
against the Eagles, though, you would have wanted a better return.
Oh, 100%. I was complaining. I was watching the game with Lemon and Rowan as well out at the district. And I was complaining a lot, sent rockets to everyone saying, why is Tom Green so shit? And he thankfully came back and had a good last quarter. So good to see him ton up at least there. Lockie Ash, 102. Good score from him, but I do think he will score better when Whitfield's in. They just find a way to find each other. Obviously, Liam, Whitfield didn't play this week. Obviously, we expect him to be back next week. He's got a break in, I think, over 150. Is he just a wait for 1 week and watch, or because he's got that ability to pop an absolute monster after missing time, can you jump on as early as this week?
Oh, like if you truly were desperate for it, I think you can, but preferably you would wait until after this week in the matchup because they're playing Geelong. Am I right? Yeah, they're playing Geelong. And given, I would not be shocked if O'Shane Mullen does see some time going across both Finn Callahan and Whitfield if he's to get off the chain. I think that there are enough other options this week across all lines that you can afford to wait a week on Whitfield.
Yeah, I wouldn't be shocked. Yeah, as you say, Mullen goes to Whitfield and even O'Connor goes to a Callahan. So, no, good shout. And then Tom, obviously your namesake there, Tom McCarthy, 76. Looked like at times he was going to put up a low one, then he got busy, then he went quiet again. So there's a bit of up and down, but tough matchup there, but scored the 76 in the end. What did you make of his game? Obviously, you were in attendance as well.
Yeah, I was impressed. I was impressed with his foot skills. I was impressed for his third game of AFL footy. But I think that what this reminds us is it was his third game of AFL footy. Having him on field as your 22nd player is something that I'd be trying to fix as soon as you can. He's a great player, and I'll be looking to loop him on if he has a good if he has a good score for the remainder. Although the Eagles play a lot of Sundays, so you'll be falling back into him. But yeah, I think that's kind of what he's going to be, kind of that 70 to 90 kind of guy. That's okay, but I wouldn't want him on field going into the last 7 weeks.
Yeah, I think it's better if you do loop him there. But as we said, tough matchup. Got Port this week, so another tricky matchup there at Adelaide Oval. And then Harry Ralston with a 55 as well. Had 0 points in the first quarter, so to get 50 again, we would have probably wanted slightly more in a tough matchup, but good cash gen, made well over 60K this week. So if you jumped on, you'd be pretty happy with his score there. Moving over to the Saturday games, and we'll start off with the Essendon and Gold Coast game. Gold Coast winning by 41 points. And Tom, you mentioned you brought him in, but Zach Merritt, 145 with 40 disposals. He was everywhere, and he was absolutely fantastic. Back in the midfield, which is where he should be playing. Has got Richmond this week, but then after that, his run is awful with the amount of potential tags, you could say. Like you look at each matchup and you go, yep, Bedford could go to him here, and then you could sort of go through all the other games. Bedford's not really doing a heap of tag jobs at the moment, but can you bring Merritt in as a so-called 1 week play if you're then planning to move off of him? Obviously, he's got Richmond, who he went 149 against. What are your thoughts on Zach Merritt moving forward?
I think last week was the week to bring him in. I brought him in because I wanted these 2 games, 2 of the softer matchups going around. And GWS, Bedford's not been tagging over time, so that now, according to DFS Australia, is actually a green matchup, GWS. So it's whether he gets the tag or not. Essendon being so poor, it might just be, we'll just take you on and beat you anyway. And then it does get a bit tougher, but I think last week was the week, and that's why I did it. And luckily it paid off with a massive pop score.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, he's going to be someone that's going to be talked about a lot. But Liam, obviously, as you're the Bombers man, I was keen to get your thoughts on his role. And he's priced at 938, break even 87. Do you think that he is a, I guess, quote unquote, 1 week play against Richmond, then you'd look to move off? Or do you think he's someone that maybe you could look to hold a little bit longer?
I think he's someone that you could maybe have a stab at holding a little bit longer, but particularly if you've got someone who, if you're someone in a position to be able to loop with McCarthy, in some of the weeks where you're particularly concerned about a tag, or if you feel like by that point in 2 weeks you're going to be able to bring in a 23rd premium and loop, that's the kind of player to loop with. Just in terms of his role, I think that, and I wish I'd known this, it came out literally 24 hours after I did it. I traded Zach Merritt last week, albeit to Sam Darcy, and I only did it because Tom McCartan was out. Now, that turned out to be a horrendous decision in the end. But I do think the big change now was Darcy Parish obviously being out means that the role that Zach Merritt's able to play is his most free and unencumbered role against a team that didn't run any tags. So whilst we won't see Darcy Parish for a little bit, we might also be without Jai Caldwell with a potential ankle concern. It may be that he's actually still going to be good, even if that Caldwell injury ends up being worse or multi-week injury. He's just going to be able to funnel so much market share that he could still be value, even if he does cop some attention.
Yeah. The Caldwell one was tough because he was obviously one of the most traded in premiums of the week, and I think his role even was a little bit funny. People saying he was at half forward for patches as well, which was interesting, but looked like he was going to get at least to a 90 odd. But yeah, that ankle injury, we'll obviously hear more about that during the week to see how bad that one is there. Jordy obviously would love to be on tonight just to talk about his boy Noah Anderson, 122, but again, that was with like a 96 odd point second half as well, and he was on like about 20 odd, and he really got going in the second half. I guess that's probably the sort of fear of starting Anderson and having him, is that he can have halves and games where he does disappear, but then he can have games where he goes absolutely nuts. And his run from now is not great. I think if you wanted him a couple of weeks ago, he was a good option. He's over $1 million. So if you've got him, great. I think there are other options I'd probably be looking at right now. Shout out to Matt Rao, 103 points from only 15 touches, but 17 tackles and no marks. That is an interesting stat line. Haven't seen something like that for a while, but another ton there for Matt Rao. If you've got him, going down the list
Bales,
here.
I've got a perfect transition for you to the next game. You say you haven't seen a stat like that in a while. What did Tom Atkins do against Richmond? Was it just about the same thing with 17, 18 tackles?
Yes, it was just about the same thing. But I had one more player from this game. Almost a segue was there, but one more player. Yeah, one more player here, and it was Sam Flanders, Guesty, 24 disposals with 20 handballs and only scored the 73. I guess that was the one thing that we thought about him, is that he's a solid option, but he probably doesn't have that huge ceiling. He only had the 2 CBAs. 91% Tog was good as well, though. But do you think with the low ceiling play, you even mentioned with McKercher before, right? You were saying that maybe you try and look to aim for the top. Do you think that just with that lower score, you're probably not looking at a Sam Flanders anymore? You're probably looking at other options now?
I think, yeah, the hype was starting to build on him a little bit. He started to string a couple of good games together. But yeah, I think a disappointing game on the weekend will mean coaches will, that hype will dissipate now. And I don't think he really is an option. I wouldn't be looking to bring him in now.
Yeah, I'd probably agree with that as well now. Also, Angus Clark, 65, Johnson, 63, good scores from rookies. And Archer May coming to the rescue for a lot of people that had Baz. Obviously kicked 3 goals in about 5 minutes, and a lot of his score came from that, but 64 is pretty good considering a few people did get a donut. But that does segue us into the Geelong and Richmond game. Geelong by 72 points, but the big, issue was Bailey Smith being a late out. And again, the thing that annoys all of us as well, and it's not going to change, right? Geelong and Geelong, but Jeremy Cameron said pre-game that they knew this the day before, late in the afternoon, that he wasn't going to play, which would have helped a lot of people. A lot of people locked in their trades on the Friday night. Unbelievable. They need to start doing what they do in the NFL, where they fine clubs for not putting their teams out. But I could go on and rant about it for a while, so we'll keep moving forward. But who did you boys have as cover for Bailey Smith? So Tom, I'll go with you and I'll go around the 3. So Tom, who do you have as cover for Bailey Smith?
The man, the myth, legend, Archer May, 64. Thank you very much. I'll take that and run.
Yeah, beautiful. Liam?
I thankfully had Tom McCarthy as my protection, because I have 7 forwards and I was already planning on looping JHF and McCarthy. And so it became pretty handy just to have that kind of 78 locked away. Although I did love watching Archer May. I honestly reckon if he'd got some more time on ground, I may have even just put him on field instead of JHF as well, because he looked great.
Yeah, yes, he was very, very good. Looks a good player for the Bombers. Guesty, who do you have as cover for Bailey Smith?
So I was able to pivot my trades, and I went to Brian Myers and traded Bailey Smith out.
Yep, there you go. Yeah, I know a few people did make that move, and that was something I would have considered. But yeah, locked out of my trades on the Friday with Green and Rowson. But yeah, I had Kai Lohman there, which 58 pre-game, someone said, what would you say? I would have said I'd take that, but he was on 59 at three-quarter time. So -1 last quarter leaves a bit of a sour taste in my mouth, but 59 is not too bad there. But yeah, some scores here. Max Holmes, popular VC option when Bailey Smith was out, or captain option for a few people. 122 points, good score from him there. Jack Martin, who, Tom, I know you sent me a bit of a screenshot saying that you were looking at this. 107, if you went there, you'd be pretty happy. If anyone had him as cover, kudos to you for having him covering Bailey Smith, but he was very good with a 107. Grind Myers, as Guesty said, brought him in for a 102. A good score from him. Tom Stewart, bit quiet there just with the 76. Anything else here? There's obviously some, and obviously Jasper Auger. Or actually, Liam, I know you're good with the names. How do you say his last name? Is it Auger? Olga? How do you say it?
So I went down a rabbit hole on this. Nathan Broad referred to him as Jasper Auger, but I haven't actually heard it from them out of the man's name, out of his own mouth. So I won't definitively say it's just not Jasper Algier because it's not two E's or an IE. That's all I cared about. That was the only thing that mattered to me. Yeah.
Yeah, no, beautiful. No, because I heard Dwayne Ross said Auger, and then Olga is what I've said. So we'll go with Jasper for the moment. But he scored 8 points, ankle injury really early, so he didn't get really much going, and that was unfortunate. Because I know a lot of people had him as cover for Bailey Smith. So yeah, that just rubbed more salt into the wounds. And how about bloody Sam Lawler? 4 points, obviously a tackle, but hamstring again. I don't know if sounds like we're not going to see him probably for the remainder of the year. So sucks for him as the number 1 draft picks. Hopefully he comes back strong moving forward in his career. But don't think there's really anyone really to go in depth with from this game. So we will, for the sake of time, keep moving on. And we'll go to the Saturday night game, starting off with Brisbane and Port Adelaide. Brisbane winning by 28 points. And Zach Butters, 119 points. Got it done. A lot of more kicks this week, which was good to see. So he is potentially some value. Guesty, is he someone that is on your shopping list? He's up against West Coast this week, so good matchup, but he is someone that can get some attention depending on the matchup.
Yeah, so I'd have to look at his run just to see what the tag targets are looking at. That's the only thing that I'd be worried about with the Zach Butters.
Yep, so they go West Coast this week, so it could be a Hoff into Hawthorn, Nash, but they haven't tagged a huge amount this year, into the Crows, who don't tag, Geelong. That could be a Mullen or an O'Connor there. Mullen obviously did the job on him last time. Then Freo with a Wagner. Carlton potentially with a Hewitt, or if Chincotta's playing or whatever. Then Gold Coast. So actually reading about it there. Few tags potentially coming, which will be interesting.
I think it's a pretty decent run. I think it's a pretty decent. I don't think there's many tags.
I think there might be 2 or 1.5 would be my line on number of hard tags that he has.
Who do you reckon they would be?
He's getting Mullen, 100%.
Mullen, number 1, and then Wagner is the second one. But I wonder then if by that point they've got Hayden Young nearing return, at which point it might be a little bit difficult to try and insert Wagner in to run the tag. And it might be, and I don't know, Young's going to be at that stage. So I just think that it's enough. And I also think that there is always going to be Connor Rosie, who's capable of copping attention. And then JHF looked better in the second half. In that game on Saturday night, and he's always someone that will be forefront of teams' minds, just number 1 pick in the way that he plays the game.
Yeah. Oh, there you go. There's the good segue to Lem. I was actually going to ask you about Horn Francis there. 85. Did you see enough for him to be an option to bring in? And I guess, would you prefer him as that F6, or do you think if you've got the cash, would he be better served as maybe that 23rd premium if people are looking down that pathway already?
Don't hate it as a 23rd premium. I actually don't think it's F6 that you'd want him. I say this from a pure self-interest perspective. I'm running him as M8 so that I do have the ability to loop him with McCarthy. He's the player that I have on my ground that I trust the least, but I know he's capable of a good score and may ultimately return to form and return to his role. It's enough, but it's not highest on my priority list at the moment.
Yep. Connor Rosie, 111. Good score considering that he had the flu during the week. So I think that 4 of his last 5 have been over 110 as well. So getting it done with some good scores. Obviously, he's had a very, very good year, has Connor Rosie. A few low scores. Dane Zorko, 79. That was disappointing. Obviously, tough matchup there. Josh Dunkley, 78, back to what we saw before that massive score of 120. So I just feel like he might be a little bit too up and down moving forward. But Tom, the one I was going to ask you, obviously, about Bergman, 64. A lot of people are going to look to trade, and I think, yep, you can definitely trade. But I guess for those coaches, I know I'm one. I believe you might be another, Tom. Doherty or Bergman, who goes first? Because I guess both you probably want to move on at some point.
And the only reason I'm going back, like my rough trade plans that I put in when Knockout opened, is to trade Bergman this week, purely because I can loop McCarthy and Doc, because Carlton play early enough for me in my red dots, so I can do that, whereas I can't with Hawks. He played in the same game, so I think they both have to go. What can you do with the loops? If you can get rid of both, great. But I don't think there's two guys that maybe a JHF, but you can't loop with McCarthy this week, given it is a Port Adelaide game. So yeah, I think it's Bergman, but purely because of the looping situation.
Yeah, tricky. Just one sort of answer and quick sentence, Guesty. Bergman or Doc, who goes first?
Look, I'd say Doc. I'm way more worried about his role.
Yeah. Liam?
Yeah.
I'd say Doc, because he's more likely to just completely tank your week by being forced out of the team completely, and he's got more cash to lose.
Yep, good call. I'll probably slightly just in the situation I'm in again. I'll look at McCarthy. Maybe I'll lean to Burn, but I think both can go. Like Doc can probably get you the better player as well if you can't downgrade a lot. So I think both can go. But yeah, I'll have to figure out who I go out of this week. I'll say Bergman now, but could be easily Doherty there as well. Will Ashcroft, disappointing as well, 66. If you've still got him, he's another guy that can get traded. And yeah, it's pretty much it. And then obviously Kyle Lone with a 58. If you've got him there, might be able to cash him in on the bench if you've got him, but he's making a little bit more money still. Moving over to St Kilda and Hawthorn. Hawthorn winning by 20 points. And, tell you what, Guesty, I know you don't own, and I know you don't watch St Kilda games at the moment because you don't have this man, but is Nasai Wanganeen-Miller, is he just someone that, I know we say we don't like to pay up and we don't want to overpay, right? But is he just someone at this point you just want to get and just go stuff it, bring him in, better for mental health, everything like that? Is he someone you're just going to bring in and just go, I don't really care?
Well, let me ask the question in slightly a different way to you, actually, to all three of you, because this is a decision I'm going to have to make this week. I've got a stack of cash because obviously I traded out Bailey Smith. But who's the priority to bring in? Is it Bailey Smith or Nazaya Wanganeen-Miller?
Ooh, that's a tricky
They're
one.
They're both averaging 125 over their last 3 to 5 matches. So
both looking at the ticker of for designated kickers, St Kilda are number 1. I think that's my answer, and I don't own. I don't own Wanganeen-Miller either. And that game, as much as I had Rowan Marshall going gangbusters, just watching, he was everywhere and he was getting attention. Like, there are guys trying to run with him and they were just nowhere. Like, it was amazing to watch, amazing footballer. I think it's Wanganeen-Miller.
Yeah, wow. How about that, eh?
Yeah. Liam?
A question for you, Guesty. Would you be able to get the other one next week?
Yeah, probably.
Because I think it's not so, like, yes, Nazaya, incredible. I do think that his performances will necessitate more attention going into him. But I also want to say that what's the difference between Nazaya and the other defenders that you can have, D1 through 4, versus the other forwards? And we know that Baz can still score. Like, the hardest matchup he's had this year has been Brisbane, and he still scored, a 93 or a 92, whatever it was. We know that he is more than capable and has the aerobic capacity to fight through it all. if there's any word that he's touch and go to play this week, then yeah, sure, Nazia's the place to go, and you wait a week on Baz, hope that he's a little bit off form, and then you bring him in the week after. St Kilda into North, I think he'll be fine.
Yeah, look, see, to be perfectly honest, the answer for me is Baz, but it's just interesting that I'm having even to consider that.
Yeah. I'm Baz as well, because I know that Nasai hasn't got any tags yet, but he does run into Sydney this week, and Braden Campbell has probably quietly been getting it done against some half-back guys. He kept Jordan Clark to a pretty quiet game today, and then he's got him next week, and then he goes into Geelong, which I'd imagine that they try and run a mullen on the side, but you want both, right? So, I think both are very good options, and that was certainly one hell of a game. First time over 40 touches for Nasai, and kick 3 behinds. Crazy to think that could have even been a bigger score. And I think he had over 1,000 meters gained, which obviously doesn't happen a great deal either. So good score from him. Ryan Marshall, 140. He was, again, very, very good. Lost the hit-outs by 30. Meek, 59 to Marshall, 29. But again, 21 touches, 7 marks, 8 tackles. We know Marshall does this. And he's got Grundy this week, so tougher matchup. But I think he's going to be a really good option and one of the better players in the back half of the year. So if you don't have him, he is an option. Jack Steele, good score for him as well with a 130. Had 15 tackles in that as well. Max Hall, been a very, very good mid-season pickup from last year for St Kilda. He's getting it done. 124, obviously clearly his highest score. And playing a bit of midfield. So he's getting it done. And if you've still somehow got him, you'd be pretty happy with that score there. Jack McRae, 123. Liam, obviously, people have been talking about, is he worth bringing in? He's scoring some 80s and sort of lower scores, but with a 120 here, St Kilda, a lot of matchups at Marvel Plus. They got a really nice run from, I think, rounds 19 or 20 to round 23. Is he someone now that's moved up your priority list in terms of trade-ins?
Yeah, he has. He probably becomes the target that I prefer in the forward line, if that's where you're looking for trades this week. It's not as though I expect that from him every week. He's priced at 94.5, I reckon, at this point. If he were to go 3 or 4 points better than that, I'd say, yep, that sounds about right. And we are kind of striving for those players in the forward line. Otherwise, I think we're underselling how good Max Hall has been. Max Hall is a top 20 player in the competition over his last 5 games, and he's priced at 594k. If you are looking for a 23rd or even a 24th premium, or you want some protection at F7, he plays a lot of Sunday games too. So he would be a fallback option coming off some incredibly high scores. I would be actively considering it if someone like a Jack Martin is outside your price range.
Yeah, there you go. So I'm just, what's his break even actually? So Max Hall's break even is sitting at, where is he? It's not, of course, it doesn't pop up. Break even of 10. So yeah, going to make a bit of cash there as well. Yep. So no, not a bad shout. Don't mind that actually as an F7 option there. Might have to do a bit of research on that one. Jack Sinclair, 92. Again, owners probably frustrated from this game here. 92, not the end of the world. Solid score. Does have some good matchups coming, but clearly Nasai has eaten into a lot of those points and not getting as many points there. But 92.
Not the end of the world, Bales. He's averaged less than 80 in his last 3 and is averaged 90 for his last 5. Compared to how the other defenders are going, he is sucking an ass at the moment.
I'm just saying 92 because over 90, the players have gone sub that. So I'm just saying that 92 is not the end of the world there. But yes, it will guess. Are you looking at trading?
I'm a frustrated owner.
Well, if you're a frustrated owner, you're looking at trading.
Yeah. Look, it's just going to come down to what happens with Caldwell. So yeah, like I said, I kind of got to bring Baz back in this week. So yeah, look, we'll see how Caldwell plays out.
Dylan Moore, 71, had a massive, again, he was another player that saved that score. 35-point last quarter, 1 goal, 3. Certainly was not looking good for a lot of that game there. So if anyone was still looking at him, I think that's probably pushed people looking away from him. Good friend, Angus Hasty, 69. But his first, I reckon, 4 kicks he turned over. Would not be shocked if he got dropped again, but had some better moments after that. But hey, He's over 300K. It's only taken him 17 rounds to get over 300K. And I could have had Max Hall on my bench over him. So that's fantastic.
We need our red dot back anyway.
Yeah, I do need a red dot. That's the thing. Couldn't even loot there. Tyroo, 63, good score. He's going to be an absolute gun for St Kilda. He looks a very, very good player there. And that's pretty much about it. Yep, so that's it from that one. So we'll move over to the Sunday games. But as always, the podcast is sponsored by good friends at Game Day Squad. So again, if you guys, if it's getting late in the season for AFL Fantasy, if you're not doing too well and haven't checked out Game Day Squad, then make sure you do and use the code BAILSDT at sign up, and you get yourself some extra packs. They're valued at about $21. So and it's absolutely free to play. But you get some extra packs to start off. Obviously, the AFLW season is very, very close to starting. So you can get involved in that on Game Day Squad, along with EPL. That's a new sport they're adding on Game Day Squad. So use code BAILSDT. You get yourself some extra free packs and head to gamedaysquad.com.au and register because it's good fun. Moving to Sydney and Fremantle. Sydney getting the job done by 11 points. And Liam, I think that the name that everyone wants in their team from now, Errol Goulden, 127. Looked good again. Wagner tried to go with him, I think, at times, but Goulden was just able to do his thing. The 8 tackles, obviously, was the big thing there. But comes up against St Kilda this week. Do you think a Windhager could go to him this week? And if so, do we still bring him in just to lock in Errol Goulden? Or do you think that maybe you could wait an extra week and get him in against, I believe they've got, is it Giants the week after maybe, or North Melbourne won the two?
North.
So what do you think?
North. You have North and Essendon in space of 3 weeks after that. Round 19, round 21.
Yeah. So Liam, do you reckon you can jump on him next week? Or this week, sorry?
Definitely, you absolutely can. I think it's Marcus Windhager is one thing above a footballer, and that's an endurance athlete. Errol Goulden is both an endurance athlete and an incredible footballer, but I do think that that's a matchup that they will look to explore. I think you can afford to wait a week, particularly given, as I said like earlier, there are that many players to pick in that 900 to 950k range, particularly around that 940k range mark. I think particularly forwards and midfielders, there are a heap of options, all who have, 100 plus scoring pedigree that are value. I wouldn't be chasing it because you feel like, everyone's going to be able to do it and he's going to break the game. I think he might have a slightly quieter week. I wouldn't be shocked by 95, 100. And then it's some, classic Errol 110 average for the rest of the season from there.
Yeah, I think I tend to agree as well. Tom, obviously, I know you've been looking at Errol Goulden. Are you going to wait for the after St Kilda matchup, bring him in against North, or are you maybe looking at potentially as early as this week?
I can't get him this week. I've got way other things to do with my life. I would be waiting though. I think you can, unless your team value is great and you're just cashing up, then maybe you can do it. But if you're paying over 1.05 million for a player, you're wanting them to have instant pop and instant scores. I think you're wasting money going there this week when you can go there next week, probably for a very similar price.
Yeah,
in a great
crazy that we saw that 140 break even a couple of weeks ago and back-to-back 120s. He actually went up 7k this week. So, yeah, 1.07 is a hefty price to pay, but we know Errol is very, very good. Brodie Grundy, another 113, just keeps pumping out these good scores. He's just so expensive now. If you're looking there. So if you've got him, you're probably in a really good spot because not many people are going to be able to pay 1.17 million in the ruck. Max Gawn is actually 40k cheaper now than Brodie Grundy. But if you've got him, you'll be very, very happy with him in your side. Chad Warner, or Hard Watch Chad Warner, as I like to call him, 97. He got there in the end, but geez, he goes missing for sometimes. So just impact player. He's just not going to be a fantasy guy, but as a forward, I guess 97, I'll definitely be happy with that. Callum Mills, 95. Guesty, I can't remember if you jumped on Callum Mills or not. Do you think that with a 95, after looking at last week going, well, tough matchup, obviously the ground was all chopped up and McCartan being out and Rampy subbed out meant he had to probably play a bit more accountable, but had 7 kick-ins. Blakey had 4. Is he someone that's back on the radar as an option?
Look, I think once again, if you're struggling to get like your last rookie off field, If you're trying to get, one of those kind of 23rd premiums, I think he's kind of in that kind of ballpark. If he's straight up on field, I think you want to be maybe aiming higher. I don't see him going much higher than that 90-95 mark, which means he's probably a good, 10 points off those top line defenders. So I think you want to be looking higher than that. But yeah, if you're searching for someone with value, then he's an option.
Yeah, the 7 kick-ins was nice to see. Heaney, 95 there as well. Luke Jackson kicked a couple of goals, scored the 89. I believe that's 3 or 4 games in a row. He's actually kicked multiple goals there. But obviously, Darcy still had a few more extra CBAs. But Jackson obviously is there in our forward lines. Andrew Brayshaw, quiet game, obviously tougher matchup there. Scored just the 85. Going down this year, and obviously a couple of poor scores. Shade Bolton, thankfully, Guesty, we jumped off when we did, because that would have been, pretty bad if we still had him there. But 56 for him. And Caleb Sarong and Jordan Clark both with 46 points. Obviously the tag there for Sarong. I know a few people did even jump off this week, knowing that tag was coming. But Liam, I guess if you've got a Caleb Sarong, is he someone that do you just hold that because he's gone past those couple of tough matchups? He now goes up he's got Hawthorn Collingwood, which isn't any easier, but I guess there's probably no real direct tag threat. Is he someone if you're in a luxury spot, you're still sidewaysing, or is he someone you probably hold now that those tags are done? Liam, on mute.
I would say that if we were closer to 2 or 3 rounds left in the year, sure, you can jump off, but I would be surprised if he is the priority or your best launching point for an upgrade at this stage. I think you can hold him if you see him as someone that you can hold for the rest of the year, and kind of having a look at Fremantle's record. Their run upcoming. It's got, a pretty tough final 2 games, but he does have West Coast and Carlton in a few weeks. I still think that he is capable of putting up a score on his day. It's going to be a tough one though on prioritisation. If you've got Bergman, if you've got Doherty, if you've got Rankin, if you've got JHF, you've got Sarong, if you've got Caldwell, these are all players that are going to cause quandaries this week, and it might just be what's your best combination of ins that you might prioritise trading them out.
Yeah. Beautiful. They are the games. We've got a couple of super chats which we will answer. So Sean does have the first one here. So thank you, Sean, for the super chat. So Tom asking, which one goes this week out of Dale, Doc, and Sinclair? Also go Merritt, Green, or pay up for an Errol Goulden. So obviously we talked about a few of these names, but if you had to trade one of those 3 out, and then who are you bringing in out of those 3?
It's Doc 100% of the time. Dale, yes, he was poor, but he got a massive tag. Sinclair has an amazing run for the end of the year. And if Wembley Miller is going to get some attention, that's only good for Sinclair. Would I go Merritt, Green, or pay up for Goulden? I wouldn't go Green. I did bring in Green last week, but I wouldn't go him. I don't see him as a natural fantasy player. Merritt or Goulden? Depends on your team. If you're fully complete and you're happy, pay up for Goulden, enjoy the ride. If you're still like me with 5 or 6 guys you don't really want, I think you got to go save the cash, go Merritt or Bont or Butters. They're all in the same kind of price range, and use that cash to do other stuff in future weeks.
Yep, I tend to agree as well.
Bales,
and
is there a reason
yes?
we're not talking about Adelaide and Melbourne? Or you just think that the game wasn't high quality enough?
Oh, shit. Unbelievable.
That you didn't want to talk about it?
Oh, that's awful. I haven't even talked about my own bloody team. Far out. I'm still just jumping in for joy for winning. Yes, we will go through that. Far out. What is going on there? I looked at the game and maybe my phone must have glitched. It wasn't going down any further than the St Kilda Sydney Freo game. So, yes, there you go. But yeah, just quickly says super chat from Tim Ashwell as well. So thank you, mate. Saying scored 24-15 this week, ranked 69 now. And 129 for the week. So massive week there, Tim. Congrats on another big week. But yes, we will quickly recap the final game of the round, which I was in attendance for. I might have to edit this bit out. But Adelaide getting the job done by 13 points. Not a huge fantasy scoring game, I should say. Jack Viney, the only real big score, the 120, and then Stephen May 103. And Isaac Rankin with 100 points there. Kicked 5 goals. Did have a lot of forward time, just the 7 CBA. So clearly that role is a lot more forward there. So if you did jump off, you'd sort of be fine with it. If you've got him, you'd be pretty happy with getting one of the only tons in the forward line this week. Cozzy Pickett was good with a 95. Jordan Dawson, 94. Really quite last quarter, but gave away 3 free kicks, which I know a couple were a little bit stiff there, but 94 in the end. Been a bit quiet last 5 weeks. Hasn't really got it done, but they have got a few decent matchups to end the year. So I think he'll be fine. We're not looking at trading him out. And if you don't have him, he's obviously still someone you might be looking at bringing in. Max Gawn, 89. Obviously tough matchup there. And I guess because the majority of people did jump off, he's now down at 1.13 million, still has a break in 152. Went off with a bit of I think, a back concern. But after the Cherry and I guess the Carlton matchups, his run to end the year is pretty good. So I think we're all going to be looking at him as an option to target. Rory Laird, there we go. There it is, the sub 90 score. So he'll go back to scoring 90s for another few weeks. 76s, so not a huge score. But Christian Petrarca, Liam, another 70. Again, 3 behinds, could have been bigger. But I guess we talk about like Caleb Daniel is frustrating and just a forward line, right? But Christian Petrarca has scored 2 low tons in his last probably 10 weeks. And a lot of other 70s, 80s, and low 90s. What are we just, is he just got a guy that's just going to stay there, I guess, as an F5, F6 for the year? Or is he just, do we have to be thinking about him more now in the Caleb Daniel bracket in terms of definitely that Petrarca's a better player, right? For fantasy, he's just not getting it done.
He's probably a little bit above Caleb Daniel. His next 5 games, he's got North, Carlton, St Kilda, West Coast, and the Western Bulldogs then in round 22.
Yeah, sounds good.
So he should be fine. I have not owned Christian Petrarca at any point this season. There was a 3-week patch where that was miserable, but I think we're kind of seeing that he definitely fits into the better footballer than fantasy player category.
Yeah, I tend to agree as well. The only other one, I guess, of relevance, obviously, Clayton Oliver with a 63. Guess do you jump off of Clayton Oliver, or is he still sitting there?
Yeah, in the buyers, I got off him.
Yep, cool. Just not getting it done. 16 handballs there as well. Dan Curtin, a few people would have jumped on as well. Scored just a 50, was quiet, but took some massive hangers, big marks in the last quarter, I believe it was. So he's going to be a very, very good player, and I'm pretty keen as a Crows fan. But yeah, not a fantasy option. I don't think he's expensive now as well. So but that pretty much recaps everything. Is there any games I have forgot about? No, I'm scrolling.
No,
there's nothing
you
else.
Forgot the game. You just forgot to talk about the fact that Judd McVie smacked the living shit out of that ball on the line, and then goal umpire was it like the arc absolutely made a ruinously bad choice.
Are you talking about the Ben Keys? Is that the Ben Keys goal? I didn't see anything. I looked at replay. I was sitting a long way away from the screen. Didn't see any finger touch, so it's a goal in my eyes. So
I think
you are
like it's fallen the other way.
Yes, Liam?
It was dreadful because they just didn't go back far enough. They just looked at like the one section when the ball was right near the line and it had deviated well before then. It was terrible. Absolutely ropeable. And Bales, you using your own eyes, mate, you are the most one-eyed human being I think I know. I may as well call you Mike Wazowski.
That's a good call on that one. No, to be fair, I honestly couldn't even see it, so I didn't even bother really looking at it. I was just like, just give it a goal. I wanted a goal. I just wanted to get out there with a win.
I know you wanted a goal, Bales. You are an Adelaide fan. It doesn't mean it is a goal.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, well, I'm happy. Crow's got a win. And yes, very happy. But we will go through our current trade plans. Obviously, it is Sunday night. Obviously, we haven't had a huge amount of time post-side. But Tom, I know you mentioned before you had a bit of a play around. So what are you currently looking at with trades head of round 18?
I'm currently on Nick Madden out to George Stevens. That might be a red dot.
He was someone we did forget to talk about, actually. That's one, the 84 looked really good, actually, very good. So downgrade option for sure, if he keeps his spot.
And at the minute, I've got Lockie Whitfield coming in. I kind of need a defender this week, so it's probably going to be Whitfield.
Yep, don't mind those trades. We do have a super chat there from Jake, which we will answer. We'll go through our trades quickly there. So, Liam, what are you currently looking at doing with your potential trades this week?
Look, I must say I had not actually looked or put any trades in. I just don't think I'm going to be able to do anything meaningful until I find out about Jai Caldwell. Outside of that, it's just throwing a bunch of crap at the wall and seeing what might stick. Look, if I'm tempted, if things are going well, I might actually have a shout at Max Hall as a 23rd or a 20. Yeah, let's call him a 23rd premium. Tom McCarthy's the other 0.5 and Hall's a 0.5 as well. But at this stage, it's all just too amorphous until I know 1.04 million sitting there in my midfield. Once I know that, same with Baz Smith, then I can figure out trades.
Yeah, I like it. Guesty?
Yeah, so for me, it's, once again, a bit like Liam, depending on what happens with Caldwell, but Caldwell will probably go straight to Baz Smith, and then I've got a lot of choice. I can't go as high as the Wang. I could get to Goulden, but I am interested in maybe waiting a week. I do like the idea of trading in a Lockie Whitfield, so that's probably where I'm going to go.
Yep, like it. For me, at the moment, I'll probably go like Kai Loman down. Maybe I'll just go to Archer May, get a bit of cash gen going there, or I go right down. But I probably do need a red dot as well, obviously with Hasty coming in. So I might have to look at maybe culling a rookie potentially early. Like, do I go? Well, I expect Liddy to come back in with the injuries at Port. So do I maybe like McCarthy, Rouse, and Liddy are all making money, so it's hard to really trade any of those guys. But I probably do need a red dot to sort of loop with McCarthy. So I'll look at doing that, and then Bergman or Doc will probably go. And I guess Merritt potentially is a 1 week play. I might look at to try and rise up the ranks, but also got Whitfield in my sights as well. I was going to bring in Caldwell, funny enough, this week, but just disappointing with the injury there. I'll figure out what trades I'm going to do later in the week. But we will answer this super chat as we wrap up from Jacob. So Liam, he's asking, Rankin more important to go to McRae or getting Goulden for Jordan Clark? Had Clark since the start, and it's been a roller coaster. It took 5 goals for Rankin to get a ton, though. So if you had to make one of those trades, Rankin to McRae or Clark to Goulden, where would you be going?
Give me 1 second to get Freo's run up. Because this time of year, it's all about fixtures. Freo have the second worst runs for halfbacks. I don't mind getting off him. I don't mind getting off Jordan Clark at all. I think ranking will be... He is an issue. I own him. But I think he's going to be within 5-10 points of the top 6 in his line. I don't think Jordan Clark will be with his run to end the year. So Clark to Goulden could be some good fun.
Yeah. It's a very interesting question. Liam, I'll just get your quick thoughts as we wrap up. Where would you go with that one?
I would lean the same way. And again, it just comes down to the difference between them. Like, Goulden might put 15 points on Clark, and that would be a fairly kind of middle of the road projection for what Errol Goulden can average, particularly when they have an otherwise healthy midfield and he's allowed to roam, versus Rankin. And the difference being there as well, like, you can still comfortably loop at the moment and still be within 15 to 20 points of the F6 kind of blanket. So I lean much more towards that, thinking about the gaps between the players, and that's why I think Clark out to Goulden is where I'd lean. Yeah.
And Guesty, you in agreement with that as well?
Yeah, I do. Look, I thought Jordan Clark was a really great trading for these last 2 weeks, but I did think you needed to be getting off him for this next round. So, I do like that. But I do also think that we will Rankin owners, of which I was one. He was going for me last week until Baz was out. So that's the trade I was able to pivot. But only 25% CBAs this week. I think we definitely want to be getting off him.
Yeah, agreed. Oh, geez, Exceptions is coming with a super chat as well. What's he saying? More Rankin if I have to hold one. I'm probably... What have Hawthorn got this week? Hawthorn have got Freo.
I'm holding more quite comfortably there.
Yeah, I don't like the Gold Coast matchup for Rankin because they normally go to him there. Yeah, maybe hold more and trade ranking. But yeah, Section, appreciate your super chat right at the end there. We do have to wrap up now, but appreciate everyone tuning in as always. If you would like a team review this week or guaranteed answers to your AFL fantasy questions with a personalised audio response included, head over to our Patreon, patreon.com/AFL Fantasy Fanatics. The link is in the description of the video and the podcast if you'd like to check that out and for more details there. But Tom, mate, thank you very much for jumping on with us once again tonight. Where can Pill find you across the socials?
Yeah, I'm on X at Tom_Hales_. Happy to answer any questions or anything. Hope you have a good last 7 weeks.
Beautiful. Thank you, mate. Liam, mate, where can the Pill find you across the socials? And just before we jumped on here, had the Free Kick Season 10 trailer, mate. Can you share anything little with us?
Yeah, so obviously my main fantasy gig is AFLW Fantasy, which should be coming very, very soon. Free Kicks launching their content coming this week. So you'll get your first team preview in your podcast feed coming on Monday. And the other big thing that we've now got going is a Substack for Free Kicks. So it'll be a spot where you can get links and play all of our podcast episodes. But then a new offering this year is we're going to do written team previews to go alongside each of our podcast episodes. But those team previews aren't just going to be fantasy related. They're actually going to dive deep into, let's call it real football statistics, real analysis, really think about kind of what their game plans are, who are the big improvers, kind of what's the best case, worst case for each team. So they will also be launching this week, coming out tomorrow. So there's going to be a lot of podcasts and a lot of content from Free Kick coming very, very shortly, all leading up to the season starting, I think, in about 5 weeks. So it's going to be a pretty hectic time for us, but hopefully people can get around it.
Yeah, mate, cannot wait. Looking very much forward to that. And if you haven't got into AFLW yet, fantasy is a great way to get into it. So make sure you guys get involved when that drops very, very soon and listen to the guys at Free Kick. Guesty, mate, where can people find you?
Tim Guest, AU.
And you can find me at BAILSDT and us at AFL Fantasy Fans on X. Thank you, everyone that tuned in live tonight. We'll be live on Tuesday night answering a heap more of your AFL fantasy questions, 8 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Perth time. And yeah, make sure you do like the video and subscribe to our YouTube channel if you haven't already. And if you are listening on the podcast, 5-star rating and review would be very, very much appreciated. And thank you to those that sent in a super chat tonight. Very much appreciated. Have a good night, guys. And we'll catch you guys on Tuesday night for a Q&A. Thanks, everyone. Have a good night. See ya.